Hello friends, my name is Mohit Singh Katoj. I welcome you all in this video lecture series of Environmental Engineering 1. This is a subject related with third semester of RTM Nagpur University. As this is the first lecture of this series, this will be an introductory lecture which will cover some basic terminologies and definitions related to this subject. Also, we will go through the syllabus so that you can get familiar with this subject. This is the syllabus and syllabus scheme. Evaluation scheme is of 80 marks and 20 marks. 80 marks is for university theory exam and 20 marks are for internals. Exam duration will be of 3 hours. Unit 1 deals with the basic introduction and various types of water demands, sources of water and intake structures, their types and locations. Unit 2 gives us the knowledge regarding the conveyance of water, various types of pipes, joints and fittings, various hydraulic design aspects and concept of rising main. Unit number 3 gives us the knowledge of water quality, which are physical, chemical and bacteriological characteristics of water, various objects of water treatment, unit operations and processes, and different processes which are used in water treatment plant such as aeration, coagulation and flocculation. Unit number 4 further gives us knowledge of another processes used in water treatment plant, which are sedimentation, clariflocculators, filtration process. Unit number 5 deals with the final stages of water treatment plant, that is disinfection units, distribution system and storage reservoirs. Unit number 6 gives us the knowledge of municipal solid waste management and different aspects related to it. These are the textbooks and reference books. I am particularly referring first two books, that is Water Supply and Sanitary Engineering by B.C. Punmiya and Water Supply Engineering by S.K. Garg. So I strongly recommend you to use these two books for properly studying this subject. So coming on to today's topic, the basic introduction regarding the importance and necessity of water supply scheme. We will start the lecture with the most basic but the most neglected question: what is environment? The answer to this is known by everyone, but very few of them correctly understands it and knows the importance of environment protection. So, what is environment? Environment is everything that is around us. It can be living or non-living things. It includes physical, chemical and other natural forces. Living things, they constantly interact with it and change in response to conditions in their environment. Environment plays an important role in the healthy living of human beings. It matters because it is the only home that humans have, and it provides air, food and other daily needs. Humanity's entire life support system depends on the well-being of all the environment factors. So we know that environment is very important, and environment is a sole factor for the existence of life on earth. Without it, there can be no life on earth. In fact, in our solar system there are very big planets, but none have life due to lack of only one thing, that is environment. Hence, even our scientists are working on only Mars to create life on it, as it has some suitable environment. This shows the importance of the environment for life and its existence. So, basically, the environment is the key to the existence of life on Earth, but there is a drastic environmental change due to global warming, excessive pollution, industrialization, etc. The natural environment is a gift of nature, and we need to conserve it for the benefit of life in the future. Environment is a very broad term which includes all things that is above, below and around us, be it air, water, plant and animal life. So for protection of environment, the study of environmental engineering is very important. So environmental engineering is the application of science or engineering principles to improve the natural environment. It may be air, water and land resources. It is our basic responsibility to provide healthy water, air and land resources for human habitation and for other organisms, and also to remediate any pollution sites. So coming on to a few important definitions related to this subject. First two definitions are pure and wholesome water. So what is pure water? It is the water which contains only 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen. Nothing else. No impurity, no chemical alterations, nothing. It just contains 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen. That water is known as pure water. Second definition is wholesome water. Water which is fit to use for drinking, cooking, washing without any potential danger to human health is known as wholesome water. It will neither contain any chemicals or impurities in excess of which they may harm a human body, nor any harmful bacteria. Such water which is safe due to absence of harmful bacteria may or may not be wholesome, but wholesome water will always be safe. This last point is very important. I will repeat for you. Water which is safe due to absence of harmful bacteria may or may not be wholesome, but wholesome water will always be safe. So basically this is an example of pure water. Distilled water comes under this category. Rainwater which comes out of the clouds is a form of pure water. After traveling for some time, it gathers impurities from the atmosphere around it and it becomes impure. Next definitions which we will see are palatable and potable water. These two are very important as these are concerned with drinking water. The water which is tasteful for drinking and aesthetically pure is known as palatable water. So the water which is tasty and is clear with no impurities is known as palatable water. The water which is suitable for public water supply is known as potable water. It has characteristics of both wholesome as well as palatable water. In literal terms, potable water is safe to drink, whereas palatable water is water at a desirable temperature that is free from objectionable tastes, odors, colors and turbidity. So basically, water that is safe to drink but smells like rotten eggs is potable, but water that is safe to drink and smells like nothing, which is odorless, is called palatable. And generally we say that we get potable water in our household supplies. So because of this, these definitions are important. We get potable water at homes. Now comes an important question. Where is the water on earth? There is water everywhere. Entire oceans are filled up with water. But can we use that water? No, that is saline water. It is unfit to drink and use. As you can see in this diagram, out of entire water on earth, almost 97% of water is in oceans, which is unfit for human consumption. Remaining 3% is fresh water, out of which around 2.15% water is trapped in the glaciers. These glaciers forms the perennial source for rivers like Ganga and Brahmaputra. Remaining 0.65% water is available for human consumption in groundwater, lakes, river and soil moistures. This diagram will further clarify how fresh water is available for human consumption. First figure shows oceans and freshwater percentage. Second figure shows overall percentage of fresh water, that is water available in ice sheets and glaciers and water available in groundwater and other sources for human consumption. It is only 0.02%. This 0.02% has further bifurcation in freshwater lakes, atmosphere, soil water, streams, saline lakes and inland seas. So basically this is the actual distribution of water on earth, and this figure should raise an alarm in your minds that why water conservation is important for us. If a barrel full of water is available in oceans, we get a glass full of water trapped in our ice caps, glaciers and groundwater, and we get only few drops of water for our consumption. That's why every drop matters. Hence, water conservation is the need of today's time. Now coming on to the sources of water, there are two sources available for human consumption. One is surface sources and second one is subsurface sources. Surface sources includes rivers, lakes, ponds, canals and oceans, while subsurface sources are underground sources of water. These includes wells, tube wells, infiltration galleries and springs. We will study all these surface and subsurface sources in detail in forthcoming video lectures. Necessity of water supply scheme. Why water supply scheme is required? Water supply scheme provides constant and reliable water supply for design population of a particular city. It provides wholesome water for drinking, cooking, bathing, washing, etc. so as to keep diseases away and promote better health. If we have clean water, diseases will stay away from our home. Maximum diseases occurs due to consumption of impure water. Hence, water supply scheme plays an important role in keeping us healthy. Point number 3. It supplies water for fountains, gardens, etc. thus helping in maintaining better sanitation and beautification of surroundings, thereby reducing environmental pollution. A water supply scheme ensures safety against fire by providing sufficient quantity of water to extinguish it. In case of a fire in a city, fire hydrants are used to mitigate that fire, and a water supply scheme provides sufficient quantity of water through those water hydrants. Point number 5. Water supply scheme attract industries, thus helping in industrialization and modernization of the society, which consequently reduces unemployment and ensures better living standards. Also, it helps in promoting wealth and welfare of the entire humanity as a whole. So, what is the data to be collected before designing of a water supply scheme? These are the following data points. Number 1 is source of raw water. Next, quantity of water available at that particular source. Quality of water, which will be depending upon the population which is to be served. What is the water demand of that particular city or town, and what is the design period of the entire water supply scheme. Various survey data will be required, such as topographical maps of intake structures, rising mains, locations of elevated service reservoirs and water treatment plants, map of the city to be served by that particular water supply scheme. Also, land acquisition and compensation need to be paid to the landowners and legal complications to be solved. We also need to collect the data of the existing water supply position of the city and its possible future expansion. This is the flow diagram of a particular water supply scheme. It begins with the surface source of water. The water is taken through the intake structure. With the help of pumps and rising main, water is sent forward towards the water treatment plant. After proper treatment, water is stored in the elevated service reservoir, and after that it is distributed through the distribution system to the population. These are the two layouts of a typical water supply scheme. First one is an example of village water supply scheme which serves small population. It uses an open well as a source of water. With the help of pump house, the water is stored in the elevated storage reservoir, and in the morning and evening hours, as per the requirement, water is sent to the houses using the distribution network. The second figure shows a particular city water supply scheme. The water is taken from the source using the intake well and jack well. It is sent to the water treatment plant, where after passing through various processes such as flash mixture, coagulation, flocculation, clarifier, rapid sand filter, chlorination and filter water tank, the water is stored in the elevated storage reservoir, and again, as per the requirement of the city, water is distributed using the distribution network. So this is it. This was the basic introduction of the subject. Thank you very much.